Oh, it is. Bring it in. And it is Friday, which means Fridays with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. All is well.
Yeah, yes, all is well. You are all good on Wi-Fi at the moment. If we have any issues, we'll manage. No worries. Coach, I titled this episode "Summer's Over," about back to school ellipsis. this is that yes, I know technically September 21st. We have 11 more days of summer technically, but come on, let's be real. Summer's kind of over for everybody. And we're also at a stage now where we get 18 days until training camp, right? And really, once basketball starts, that's when summer's really over, right? That's when it's like, all right, back to work, back to serious grinding out here. 18 days, Coach. And you've already seen on Instagram, if you guys follow these players, we're seeing them starting to show up back in their markets. Well, all but 3 players we know are showing up to their markets. What is the latest right now with Bradley Beal? He's still in Washington as of September 10th. Ben Simmons, well, he says he's not going to training camp. We'll see. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks. And of course, Damian Lillard out in Portland, which is a specifically interesting person for this show, given who our CEO is. Hello, Henry. So, Coach, what are we thinking? Where are you right now as we look at 18 days to go for the start of the season, and those 3 names in particular?
So I think it's been managed incredibly well in Washington. I can't envision a scenario where Bradley Beal finishes the season in Washington. I think that he's too aware of just how fast your career goes. He, by one basket, he finished second or whatever it was to the scoring title last year. But as Harden knows, whatever. Trying to get a ring. And he's in position to get traded. So the smartest thing for them to do is to put on the look of, hey, everything's good here. We're good. My kids like going to school here, which absolutely could be true, of course. And we're fine. But in reality, they've got to trade him because every time they lose badly, which won't happen a lot, but that'll happen, you're just going to deal with the same questions again and again and again. And I don't know that he can make his value any more than it is now. So I think the smart thing for Washington is to do what they've done, act like he's going to start the season here on a team that I've got as a decent. I have him winning, I think, 42 games. And but I think eventually he gets moved. The bigger question for him, which is maybe a topic for later in this hour, would be where can he go? Because I've only got 3 potential landing spots for him where I think a deal can get done on both sides. So we'll talk about that later. Lillard is not managed as well when he has said publicly, and as we have reported privately, that this is not where I'm going to be long-term. No one ever reported he was going to be traded the next day. But I don't see, I like what the Blazers have done this summer, but nothing to where it needs to go to keep him thinking, okay, I can waste one more full season, which is everyone is writing now and talking on their podcast, Jarod, about how he's going to be there for 1 year and then we'll see. I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's a long time and he never gets that year back.
Right.
So I think he'll start the season there and I think they'll be fine, but I don't think they're going to be where he wants them to.
And he's not young. I mean, he's not old, but he's not 25.
No. The clock is ticking for small guards. I mean, Chris Paul is an incredible exception. I guess you could be naive and think if you're Damian Lillard, I'll be just like Chris Paul. Good luck with that. There's just not many like him. And his game is way different. Damian's much more of a scorer, whereas Chris Paul is more of a facilitator, which I think is a little less taxing. And then we got the Philadelphia story, which is Ben is flat out saying he's not coming. And so now to the interesting part, listening to Brian Windhorst the other day on his pod, our friend from ESPN, who was quoting Bobby Marks, a former GM of the Nets who works with ESPN. Ben Simmons has made $8 million already on his new deal because you were able to get, I think, 50% of your salary up front. So we got 8 of his 32 million, July 1. October 1, he gets another 8. So he'll be 16 million into his $32 million salary 3 days into camp. They can fine him $200,000 a day starting the 28th, but there's a long way to get to 8 million. and 16 million. So there was 8 million October 1st. He's already got 8 in the bank. So, and that's only if they do fine him. So he's not going to be hungry. He's already made a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you his power bill is going to stay on. The heat will stay on. And so it's going to be a mess. And no one's predicting he's going to be there long term. And I think we feel the same way.
Well, for those of you that follow the social media streets, he was seen loading up one of his, either his Lamborghini, his Ferrari, one of those sports cars, into a truck. Where that truck's going, I don't know. but the sports car was being loaded into the truck, and he was there. Well, I have no idea where he's going, and I'm with you, Coach, there. I think, look, we talked about this before. Daryl doesn't have to do anything, and he is someone who is willing to have things be uncomfortable because he doesn't care, right? He just wants to, whatever is best for the team in terms of a deal is what he's going to try to do. Now, because he's going to call Ben's bluff and say, fine, you're going to hold out. We're going to tax you. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how long these guys play stalemate, or if it's a situation where it's like, all right, let's just get this guy out of here and see what deal we're going to get, which brings us to the team that everybody talks about where they think he is the perfect fit, which is Golden State. And Coach, you wrote an article about it at the beginning of the week, and you were like, no, you think him and Golden State is like the perfect fit. And offensively, it's brilliant, right? I mean, imagine him doing dribble handoffs with Steph Curry, right? Like, okay, like what are you gonna do, right? Like, I mean, that's fantastic.
I think that it's a really good fit. I think there's multiple places. Ben Simmons, like Draymond, can fit into a lot of places. He can't necessarily fit next to a lot of rosters and systems if they're not willing to change. In this particular case, to your point, it's a perfect fit because of the way Golden State plays, which is what I wrote the article about. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of 5 out when no one's in the paint. So everyone's so worried about spacing. In fact, the reason why I wrote this article is I listened to a number of podcasts, all basically, these are smart people saying you can't put Draymond Green and Ben Simmons together. And as I'm walking, I just said, I reject that idea that you can't. You can't do it in Philadelphia, which is a power system, pound the ball inside. Joel Embiid, I mean, by the way, the Sixers were a number 1 seed, and they were the number 1 duo in the league in terms of plus minus. But Embiid draws people into the paint. That's where his gravity works. Curry draws people outside the paint. And as I put, to your point just now on triple handoff, as I put in the document, GIF that Judy made for me, if you don't guard Kevon Looney or Draymond Green, which currently the starting 4s and 5s for Golden State, then you can run that little dribble handoff with Curry, which means you're bringing your man into Curry. And if he's off of you because Green can't shoot, Looney can't shoot, well, then after these large men screen Curry's man when they have the ball, he's got an open 3 or open lane. You have to have some what we call curl protection, or in this case, DHO protection. And I think it's amazing. They also spread the floor and run nice little backdoor actions. And because it's so hard to guard Curry on the perimeter, there's also a face cut and back opposite side of the floor. And you would have in my opinion, I wrote this, the best duo defensively as a combination that also were amazing passers that the league has ever seen. Like, in other words, the NBA has never had 2 players that together were better on defense and passers than Draymond Green and Ben Simmons would be. So now you've got the greatest shooter of all time and potentially one of the best shooters we've ever seen in Klay Thompson. We don't know yet for sure how he'd be. With a coach that's very open to creating Cuisinarts on napkins, right? That's pretty damn interesting if you're Golden State. I don't think Golden State would say no to the deal, absent Daryl Morey asking for too much. The Sixers might say no. They might think they can get a true all-star and not Wiggins and Weissman and Looney and Kuminga and Moses Moody, whatever.
Right.
That's a different story.
Well, that's the piece right there, right? Because if you are Daryl, you have to make sure that with this trade, your team remains a championship contender, right? Like, you can't get worse. And your prime is with Joel Embiid, which is now. Like, he is peak who he's going to be. And, he's a big man who's got injury issues. I don't know how long that window is going to be. So to your point, he may say no because he's like, look, Wiggins ain't enough. I need someone else who is an actual all-star to come back and some other stuff. The offensive part you mentioned that I think people forget about, it's not just the shooting with Curry, right? It's the constant motion, as you said, Coach, which makes him hard to guard, right? When he gives the ball up, dude's running around, zigzagging all over the place, and somebody has to account for that at all times, right? And that is often what causes defenses issues. And the read and react nature of the Golden State offense, I think, is perfect. A question I have for you is defensively, not together. How many minutes, in theory, would Golden State play with just Simmons on the floor? And I say that because he's an all-NBA defender and he's excellent. No doubt about that. His switchability, though, I think while he is big enough to switch 1 through 5, I don't think he guards centers as well as his size would indicate. Like, he's excellent on wing guys and dudes on the perimeter and point guards and all that. But like an actual true center, like an Embiid, like a Jokic, like, I think that's a little more problematic. He's not Draymond in that regard. Draymond's way better at guarding bigs than he is.
For sure. That's why, as of now, they have Looney and Weissman. They wouldn't have one or both if they did a deal. But I mean, I could even see a deal where Looney and Weissman were included along with a bunch of others, and Drummond comes back. And so now Drummond's their backup center. But you're completely right. You have to protect Simmons against some fives, like most of the league. There's very few people that can guard the Jokic and Embiids. Devin put in our chat that he just can't see Simmons and Green playing together. Devin, read the article. If you want to argue with me, that's fine. But I gave you the video. Like, just that's what they do. That's what the Cuisinart does. Judy put a link in there.
Now, unless Devin's saying that he can't see them playing together emotionally because Draymond's going to yell at Ben every 5 seconds. I can see that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying, yeah, of course. I think they'd be unbelievable together. I think that in transition, Ben Simmons elevates already a good fast break team just because of Curry's 3. Mm-hmm. With a much better rim threat. If you want to get more threes in transition, have someone threatening the rim. They don't really have that with Kevon Looney as a 5. They would with Weissman when he plays, whenever he comes back from injury. But Simmons, we know, is a rim-to-rim racer with the ball in his hands. So I think that elevates their offense in transition. But I think the Sixers, I wrote it in my doc, I think they're like 3rd in the league in points off turnovers. Well, part of that's because Simmons is the one stealing the ball and going to get the layup.
Exactly.
But he causes chaos. And the two of them together would be, and you can play them with Looney. Yeah. Now, you've got to be creative. If Draymond could ever get back to shooting his 3, but if you're up 12 with 2 to play and you want your best defensive lineup on the floor, you can play all 3 of those guys because, again, you've got to curl protect for Curry. And so you've got to at least honor some of that. And if you don't, Curry's in all the 3s he wants. So I don't think Golden State's the team that would say no. I think Daryl, as an example of what Daryl might do, I went through the entire roster the other day of every team and trying to do a trade with every team. And I think I came up with 9 or 10 possible trades that were simple trades, not super complex ones. I may write about it next week, so I won't go into much detail. But one example might be, Jarod, that no one's talking about, is what if you did a deal where Malcolm Brogdon was one of the 2 pieces you got from Indiana? So Indiana is able to put Sabonis with Ben Simmons. All right. And now you can trade Miles Turner if you want. You don't have to, but you probably would want to. And he led the league in block shots last year. And let Sabonis play the 5. And now Philly has a point guard that has been an all-star, that has playoff experience, lots of it, that shoots 3s, that runs your team, and knows how to play with power guys because he's just been playing in Indiana. And, of course, he played with Brook and Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. That might be better than anything he gets with Golden State because he's trying to win this year. I get that. So I've got something like that for maybe 9 or 10 teams. Okay. I think Daryl probably would want that more, is my guess.
And that's the thing, right? Once this Simmons deal happens, that's one more team off the board, right? For potential Damian Lillard, for like, these are how these things work. There's only so many teams that are available that can make these moves for these guys because they have the requisite pieces that the trading team wants in return, right? And that's the money question. And the money's got to work. And Jarod, and this is super important. In the case of Beal and Dame, they're different than Ben. Yeah.
Because those guys want to go to a team that's right away going to compete for a championship. Ben doesn't have that privilege.
Right.
Ben gets traded wherever Daryl wants him to be traded to. The other two are playing ball. And so in other words, in order to make the money work for their huge salaries, well-deserved salaries, you can't rip apart the team you're being traded to.
Right.
So there aren't a lot of options. In fact,
None.
For Beal, I came up with only 3 potential places where I thought he can get traded to, where I thought the deal might work. So I think that Dame, I think the clock is ticking. If he wants to stick it out, fine. But I think it's going to be in a mess there, is what I think. But I think you bring up something regarding Simmons and his class. Let's talk about Simmons is on this. He's got his big deal, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You've got who's next?
Yeah, who's next to get their bag?
Yeah.
So the 2018 draft class, right? So we know Luka and Trey signed their deals, right? Huge. Luka, as privileged as being an All NBA member twice already, he's got the rookie supermax, right? So he's all good. But we got a couple other guys, and Trey, he's 5 years, 178. I mean, with a couple, he makes one of those All NBA teams. He's going to escalate into the $200 million range as well. But we got some guys who are still on the table here. This great piece by Dan Devine. We got DeAndre Ayton, who was excellent in the finals, and 2 players who everyone knows speak my basketball love language, which are Michael Porter Jr. and Jaren Jackson Jr. And there are reasons, of course, why these teams have not extended them yet. And the question is, are they going to? And what does that mean for these particular players in this year coming forward? Here's what I think. If you're Denver, what I'm thinking is they're like, look, we already got Murray signed. Jokic has already got, right? That's another big deal. Between the 3 of them, if they extend Porter Jr., that could be $160 million between just those 3 dudes, right? That's a lot of money because Denver is not a large market super. Like that's not what they do. They're not a historically luxury tax repeating type of team. If you look at Phoenix, they got the Chris Paul on a decent deal. Booker's already signed. They're going to have to extend Mikal Bridges as well, right? So that's another piece they have to worry about. And then for Memphis, obviously they look at Jaren as a cornerstone, but with Ja Morant, but there's some things that he needs to do to improve his game so that he is worth that kind of money. So when you are someone who hasn't been given the bag in that extension as a player, and coach, you work with, not these particular guys, but guys, who have these issues come up. What is that summer like in that season before when they don't have their deal signed and they know, all right, I've got to step up and really perform?
It really depends a lot on how the agent handles it, how the agent manages them, how the team manages them. To me, the one question mark is both of us love Jaren Jackson. I've been on the record before the draft as ranking Jackson Jr. as the highest level ceiling. I was probably wrong. Luka probably.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, I thought Jaren Jackson could be. I still think he can be. What is he? 21?
Yeah, 21.
22? He's
21.
Very young.
Yes.
He can be a Tim Duncan like talent. I always thought that. But we have no idea how good he is. We just have no idea. Like, we don't know if he's going to be a starter in this league. I really don't, because of injuries. He can be incredible, but he may not be. And so, what do you give him? He wants the most, and if he has an amazing year this year, he'll get it. And so I could see the whole point of extension. I've had players sign extensions many times. The whole idea is to hedge your bet. If I don't sign the extension and have a killer year, I'm going to make even more money for sure. But if I sign the extension, I move that risk. That's it. That's the deal. So you can say to Jackson Jr., you get hurt another year, and now you're worth X. And so we're willing to pay you X plus as a win for you, and you remove some of the risk that you would take otherwise by not signing. His agent might be saying, no, we want the full bag.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're not giving you the full bag right now, which means you got to play the year out.
And he's a CAA guy, and I know that those guys are definitely going to be pushing for that. I think, look, Jaren's issues are well documented, right? Like, health aside, for his size, he fouls way too much on defense, right? He's got to get better at that. That foul rate's got to come way down. He is the prototypical big that we like, right? That stretch four, shoots threes, can also score inside, right? And can be a monster defender, right? If we get all those things working. I mean, pairing him with Ja Morant, that's That's your cornerstone for a 50-win franchise. But he's got to show that and make those developments on that side of it. I think if you look at Michael Porter Jr., I mean, what's not to like, right? I mean, dude's 6'10" and can shoot for days.
What,
I mean,
so Jarod, so going back to Memphis quickly, you framed it perfectly. If he's the guy next to Ja, they have to max him out. This year, if they don't get the extension and he's their second best player or their best player, there's their duo. They're their 2 top 3 picks, and now they move on from there. But he hasn't earned that yet. So that's the dice that his agent's maybe on the roll. My question for you is, what is Denver waiting for on MPJ? Because Jamal Murray's out till probably spring. Mm-hmm. And this dude's going to average 24 points a game.
Yeah, for sure. And on 50, 40, damn near 85. I mean, with the volume going up when Jamal Murray got hurt, his efficiency actually got better. He didn't get worse shooting more. He got better, which is, kind of crazy. The only thing that would make me that I think that they're hesitant about is the back, right? That's the only thing it could possibly be. They're like, man, if we lock this guy up to 5 years at whatever and something goes wrong, that's sunk cost money, right? But he was pretty good this year. Now we know he had some tightness in it during the postseason this year. I haven't heard anything else this summer. I talked to a couple people around there. They don't seem too concerned. I do think an extension will get done. The question is, if you're Denver, man, like I'm probably doing that sooner rather than later, because if he gets all-star talk buzz, because again, Jamal's out and he's averaging 24 a game, man, that prices just went up. And now you're paying yourself into a corner. Got to pay a little more money than you wanted to. So I'd get it done quickly if I was Denver.
I think that there is a possibility that I think you're right. I think you're probably right, because his team, his agents, meaning his group, has to recognize that same risk with his back. So in other words, the Nuggets might be thinking, we're not going to do anything because we're going to have to max him out regardless. If we do it now or later, let's wait till later. And then we'll give him, as a restricted free agent, we'll give him the full deal. But you run the risk of pissing him off, right? You run the risk of pissing him off. You don't want to do that. He doesn't owe them anything.
And these young guys, especially, Coach, it's this age is when you have a lot of those sort of feelings about like, well, I'm the man now, and like you guys owe me, and I want to be showing some respect. This is that age range. So that second contract is where they start feeling that. By the time they're like late 20s into their 30s, it's like, all right, whatever. They've already proven who they are. They get what they get. But this is the age where they're like, no. Like, you guys got to give me the thing. And this is when a lot of that macho sort of like, oh, you guys don't believe in me kind of thing could send them the wrong way. I don't think that'll happen, but that's an excellent point you brought up there.
It's so what is he, 22? How old is
he? 22.
So when I was 22, I had some serious swagger, and all of it was fake. All of it was fake. I just started coaching October of that year. I didn't even have any coaching experience, but I was trying to land this hot blonde who I ended up landing, all with fake confidence and swagger. I was a nice, kind person. This guy actually has a reason to be confident. He's really improved, and he's improved defensively, which is where always the issue with him was.
Yes.
So, and he's going to have a chance this year with Jamal being out to just go crazy. Like,
oh my God,
he might win a Player of the Month award.
Oh,
he might just have one of those months where he just goes fucking bonkers.
We've seen it. He is a guy that, like, I mean, it's not even like he's a streak shooter. He's just a purely good shooter. But when he's like super hot, it's like, you're bordering line into that like Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant category of like.
I was thinking Durant because of his size. Yeah. And he's really athletic too.
Yeah. So they got some work to do in Denver. And the last one being Ayton, who, I mean, wow. He's been the player I've been the most impressed with. I mean, Luka aside, because whatever, we knew what Luka was going to be, but in this draft, I mean, in his first playoff appearance, which was this past season, he didn't look scared on the big stage, Coach, like at all. Good. Like, which, you can have some nerves. This is the NBA Finals we're talking about here. He was calm, and as good as Giannis was and dominated, when you look at the synergy numbers, Ayton against Giannis in one-on-one situations, the best defender on him. Had Giannis under 50%. Giannis against everybody else, 60%. Against Ayton, under 50. Like, so we know he's an excellent defender, super athletic, and I think there is room for his offensive game to grow. he took it a little bit of step back when Chris came, which is why they got to where they got. But he's got room to expand that offensive game.
He's really young. So a couple of things on Phoenix. One is on Ayton. He willingly took his game back a little bit, and the team exploded. What a great story that is. To most players, I maybe I've said this on the show. I'm sure I have. We got like Scotty Barnes. Most players come in the league as me players, and they have to learn how to play the we game. It isn't so easy. He was the number one pick in the draft and still did it. Congratulations. Like, that is the sign. The player gets most of the credit. The franchise gets some. And that leads me to my second point is James Jones, who I loved when he was a college player against Miami, is a hell of a story here. I trust he'll get this right. He's got Chris Paul making crazy money, Devin Booker, Max, Ayton, but here comes Bridges, and then here comes Cam Johnson, who are not the same level as those guys, but they're going to want to get paid. It's going to be hard. And you have an owner who finally admitted that we'll pay the luxury tax. Yes. That's the cost of winning a championship. I'm sure he's done the math. He'll be just fine. They'll be making plenty of money. But James, I can't say much about this, but James Jones and I have the same financial manager, same wealth planner. And years ago, I think he was still playing. Our guy said to me, and we had a dinner meeting, that there's very few players, and I won't say the other one's names, who are just on top of everything like this guy. I'll just leave it at that. No surprise, he's now a general manager.
Right.
Not every player sweats numbers that way. I don't. You could be brilliant and not really care about numbers that way. I think he gets all of it. He's not just a former player. In fact, we shouldn't even consider him a former player anymore, other than he understands players.
Right.
He's just a brilliant dude. Fucking dude who has took Phoenix where no one thought they would get. And yes, Chris Paul has helped, and yes, Monty Williams has been great. But the boss is the boss is the boss. And it's not the owner. We know what he can do. It's James Jones. So Ayton's in good hands. I think he's going to flourish. I really was so impressed with him this past season. And as Chris Paul's ability wanes, because ultimately you do have to pay Father Time, here comes Ayton and then Bridges. Booker can still get better. Cam Johnson, he was 24 now, but can still get better. He's only 2 years in. Yeah, I think Ayton's, I think he's a centerpiece of.
Absolutely.
I've got him as the winningest team in the league. We're going to get to records later.
Yep.
But I've got him as the winningest team in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns. Maybe I'm wrong.
The last thing on this 2018 draft class, obviously when Luka came out the gate and was basically all NBA as a rookie, everybody was like, oh my God, like all these other teams, what terrible jobs they did picking. Well, looking back now, right, 3 years hence, everyone except for the Sacramento Kings in the top 5, I think very happy with who they drafted, right? You can't tell them they were wrong for taking who they took as opposed to Luka, right? I think everyone's comfortable with who they got. And, going forward, and Denver getting Porter at the steal at 14, right? So I think everybody's happy with where they are, and we'll see who gets the extensions and everything moving forward. Before we get to the records, I want to talk players and vaccines really quick. Judy, if you want to pull up that article in the Athletic, I think it was. So the NFL, obviously has it very clear sort of protocol in terms of players who don't have the vaccine and what happens when they get traced in a particular way, and they have to end up going into quarantine. So Jamel Hill wrote this, and the article here is most NFL players understand what Cam Newton doesn't, right? And being unvaccinated, right, is not just bad for the larger society, but for football, the ultimate team sport, which here, always preaches about that. We're all a team, that kind of mentality. Not being vaccinated, right, is the ultimate selfish move, right? Unless it is some actual legitimate health reason. Which there are some, right? But to your point, there are not many. Yeah. And so Cam is obviously one of the more high profile ones. There are others, Cole Beasley, etc. I bring them all up to say the NBA is up next, right? And we know based on San Francisco and New York City, the rules they have there in terms of legislation, you cannot enter if you're not fully vaccinated and participate in team activity. So we're going to find out really quick who's really about this, who's taking this seriously and who isn't. And again, because we put athletes and celebrities on such a high level and pedestal, and young kids, and not even young kids, adults worship these people. And if they're not doing the right thing, the example that it sets is poor, right? And it's not good for sports that are so visible.
You know, George Washington made every one of his soldiers get the smallpox vaccine, which back then was basically being exposed to a small dose of it and then hoping you survive. And if you didn't survive, you didn't survive. If you did, you were inoculated against it going forward. What I always say is, what I've been saying lately is, we used to not care if you smoked cigarettes. It was your choice in your body until science showed that, oh, it fucked us up too. And then we banned it everywhere in public, right? It is just, we're just trying to get you, because you won't think about us, we're forcing you to think about us. It's a sad reality that we have to face. I think you're exactly right. I think most NBA players have had it. Mm-hmm. I actually was just texting with a player the other day. Will you get the third one? Either a booster or just the third shot of what you had before. That's going to be interesting if it turns out we need it. We may not need it. We've had, I think Henry might have been telling me, maybe it was my wife, that I think they say we've had 40 million known COVID cases in America, but it's more like 100+ million already. Now, some of them have been vaccinated too, but if you add that into the people that have been vaccinated, we're getting to a point in the next 2 months where you're going to see the numbers really drop, because a lot of people are going to be more or less immune to serious infection. But yeah, I can see where coaches, I think in that article, Ramiro was quoted as saying it was a factor.
Sure.
I know this.
And like cutting people and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're looking at my 15th, well, some teams don't like keep 15, so 13th, 14th men. In fact, a lot of teams don't even keep but 12, and they'll keep two ways. That's 14 when they can have as many as, I think, 17. If there's two players they're looking at, one's vaccinated, one's not, like if you're in that point where you're both on minimum deals to begin with that are not guaranteed,
don't let that be the reason.
Right, you're equal value anyway.
Right,
take the vaccinated one.
Yeah. Especially for these guys, right? This is your livelihood. Like, don't let that be the reason why you're not. And again, Cam is the biggest example in the NFL, but it's like, bro, like that can't be your reason that you're not going to play football. Like something that, again, Randy points out, every kid going to school has to take about 13 vaccines. We've been doing this our entire lives. Like,
and we
our whole lives.
And how many, is it 1 billion? How many people have taken this vaccine?
Right.
It's like one of the most incredible piece of data. My dad is 81 he's got cancer everywhere. It's not the kind that'll kill you, but it's like in his heart too. It's all over the place, but it's a cancer that you're still probably gonna die of old age as long as you can deal with the medicines, whatever. He's fighting great. I just saw him this last week. He's doing great. When his doctor said, you know what, we should probably just give the third dose, he's like, okay.
Yeah, right.
So, like he's 81 years old. He's 170 pounds. The life has been his life. Come on, Cam.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine, buddy.
Yeah. That's the thing.
And if you're not going to be fine, explain why. All of us will understand. Wouldn't you say, Jarod?
Sure.
If you tell us that you've got an issue without telling us what the issue is, there's something with me medically that prevents me, we will tell you to mask up, and we'll mask up around you like we're all part of the same community. So if that's the case, fine. But I don't think it is.
No, it's not. And again, to your point, Coach, we're talking about a vaccine with a 99% like effectiveness rate. But yes, let's all focus on the 0.2, like, right? The one in like infinitesimal chance that something might happen. But that's a conversation for a different day. Let's move on to more fun basketball stuff. Over-unders. It's that time.
No.
You don't do over-unders?
I wanted you to talk about Chris Webber.
Oh, well.
That's a good conversation.
So everyone knows Chris Webber this weekend will be inducted into the James Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Chris Webber, of course, as everybody knows, one of the great. Remember, this is not the NBA Hall of Fame, folks. There is no NBA Hall of Fame. This is the Basketball Hall of Fame. He was an incredible high school player, as Coach was talking about pre-show before everybody jumped on. College, part of the iconic Fab Five team at Michigan with Jalen Rose, Jimmy King, Juwan Howard, and Ray Jackson. That team go, by the way, back-to-back championship games. And that's the cruelty of college basketball, man, right? That team was certainly good enough to win a title, right? Back-to-back championship games in a single elimination tournament. Pretty good. And then, of course, a stellar NBA career in Washington, Golden State, Sacramento. I said to Coach before the show, he came along an era too soon. And he's still a Hall of Famer already, right? But like, if he was playing now with his handle, the way he shoots, like, oh my God, like he's one of these great all NBA wings that we're talking about perennial. Is this the best player in the league? Like, he was that kind of dude. I know you have things to say about Chris's basketball skills.
So I saw him first. I think it was I'm sure it was the summer of 1990. Memories as Malcolm Gladwell has shown. What we sometimes piece things together. But my memory is that I was overseeing a gym for the 19U national championships, maybe 17U. He was a rising junior. He was young. I was getting married a week later. College coach was in the gym watching. And back-to-back games, I don't remember the name of the Memphis team, but Penny Hardaway, I remember. He was on that team. And I think he was the same class.
Yes.
I think they were both rising juniors. They were 16. And then Detroit Super Friends, Chris Webber's team. And they ended up going 1 and 2, pretty much, a couple years later in the NBA draft. And I wouldn't say they're the best high school players I ever saw. I've seen some great high school players that became great NBA players too. But he was right there. His hands, it's such a factor when you can just catch everything off the glass, loose balls, and then of course passes. Powerful, really skilled. But I want to say something about the Fab Five. I don't really pay attention. I didn't love Chris Webber's game in the pros. I liked it just fine. He was a good player. He should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer with those other 4 dudes. Because for the business of basketball, whenever we can energize the masses, it says something. We don't want to be lacrosse would love a Fab Five situation, and all of a sudden lacrosse is the best sport. That Fab Five was like wildfire, right? It came on the heels of Georgetown and John Thompson's best teams and Pat Ewing. They were so famous. And it was such a big deal that I had a player that I coached in high school that played high major college basketball. And early in the preseason of, it was 1993, one of his coaches called me and said, hey, we had to suspend him from practice and he got some trouble. I said, what happened? My kid was the starting center for the team. Big dude. And the coach said he beat the hell out of one of his teammates, basically punched him in the face one time. And my kid was a big, strong guy. You didn't get up from that. And so I called him. I'm like, dude, what happened? This is one of his classmates. They were freshmen together the year before, one of his best friends. He says, Coach Thorpe, we think we can win national champion this year. And that motherfucker walked into our first day of practice with a Michigan hat on. We could kick. At this point, C-Web was gone. I don't remember if Jalen was gone too. Jalen might have been gone.
Jalen didn't leave till his junior year. Yeah, so.
I don't remember. I know they had at least three of the 5 left, maybe 4. But the Fab Five was so famous that a guy was on a team that ended up making the Final Four that year. My kid's team did make the Final Four. And I like to think that fight probably helped because we could beat Michigan. That's how famous they were. So I this article that Judy just posted, Weber talks about going back to Michigan. Now that if anyone doesn't remember, their records were trashed because was it an agent, whatever, the whole story.
It was a boost. Silly college rules that don't make any sense.
I know that I'm very close friends with the booster's stepson. Amazing people. It wasn't unique to Michigan. Let's put it that way.
Right. Every team does this.
And so now they've hired Juwan, as they should have. He's an incredible coach, in my opinion, better man. I want all those guys coming back.
Yeah.
Because they really were so, to me anyway, so special for sports. I didn't love them. I rooted for my own players in playing in college. I loved what they represented, and they were so good. 5 freshmen playing for the national championship. Come on.
That's the thing about that team that everyone fails to realize. They were really good. So much of college basketball at that time, and college basketball is still about this, right? It's about the coaches. The coaches are the superstars of the teams, right? You think about your Coach K's, your Roy Williams, he's retired now, all those big personalities. Those are the people you remember from the programs, right? Okay. You had your Dukes, which was like, when you're like blue blood, historically elite programs. Kentucky is like all that sort of thing, right? And then every once in a while, you get these upstarts like to come in and like kind of do their thing. Georgetown, as coach mentioned, UNLV for a couple of years with Tark out in the desert. I mean, with Stacey Augmon, Larry Johnson, Greg Anthony, those teams were good, man. Like, and then Michigan, right? And the thing about it was they were freshmen and they were not your classic, like, what it's like in a high school gym coach, right? Maybe not now, but like I remember as a high schooler, like being on any team, like when you're on varsity, it's kind of like, oh, those guys are really good, right? Like these freshmen were like, fuck those guys. Like, no, we're good. Like we got this thing.
I think they played Duke in a national TV game. This was Grant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
They made that Duke lost the national. Duke may have won that year. They played Duke.
Yeah.
Later, like
Grant Hill, Leitner. Mm-hmm.
I think they played them early in the season and lost in a great game. Like they just weren't afraid. But one of my favorite things about these guys was I thought in Rose and Howard and Chris Webber in particular, I thought they had a huge swagger and were also very humble. I don't love Steve Webb as an announcer. I don't love most of these guys as announcers. I don't hate them, but I've always found him to be very humble. This was an amazing, amazing player. He was the #1 pick in the draft for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
And I never felt like he thought automatically he was going to outplay you. He had to work. He quit his game team. Okay. Like I said, I don't pay attention too much. I thought they were very humble. They did it the right way. They really tried to kick your ass.
Oh, yeah.
And they're allowed to play with swagger at 18. It's okay. But I thought they put in the work. Put in the working, I'm fine with you.
Well, in the Fab Five documentary, Steve Fisher, who was the coach at the time, who's coaching San Diego State now, I believe.
Yeah.
Fisher said the common misconception about this team was they ran the show. I just rolled the balls out and they just did whatever they wanted. No, that was not it at all. Right? They had a quite like structured team and old vibe. It's just that those guys had a swag about them and they had high basketball IQs, right? So they knew how to play the game and what to do. And yeah, they were incredible team. So anyway, kudos to Chris Webber on much deserved Hall of Fame. And I'm happy that Michigan has softened up its stance and, he's now no longer disassociated from the program. And now that Juwan's head coach, all those guys are back and doing their thing. And it's just nice to see nostalgia. We all love it. Over under time. Yeah.
Yes,
let's get into it.
Let me hear you. So you want to do 3 teams that are likely to win more games than what the Vegas over under line is. 3 teams that are likely less. I have already done this for all 30 teams.
Perfect.
And so I think I probably had 5 or 6 exact matches. Well, exact being point. I might have a team winning 31, and Vegas had them at 31.5 or 30.5.
Vegas and a magical half game. They're so good at that.
Right. So, but I found 7 teams that had more than a 4-game spread. Only 7 teams, more than a 4-game spread, plus or minus to what I predicted last month. So let me hear yours one at a time, and then I'll see if they're on my list.
No problem. And then after we do this, we'll go into our championship bus conversation. Sir. So, right, again, as Coach said, over-unders, and I'm going to go first with the 3 teams I think are going to beat their odds of whatever the over-unders, and I'll tell you what their odds come in at. So, first team that I looked at, to me, Coach, were the Atlanta Hawks. Their over-under line was 47.5. I think they're going to win 50 games and 50 plus. I think Trae Young and Nate McMillan, to me, are the perfect combination to be in this scenario. Because Trae, forever proverbial chip on the shoulder guy, right? Like that's just who he is. So he's going to roll with that swag all the way. And Nate McMillan too, right? He's like, oh, Indiana, you thought I was a crappy coach. You got rid of me. Look what that dumpster fire is you have over there now. I get the interim tag here. All of a sudden we go to the conference final. I just feel like these 2 men in particular, and you're a coach and your superstar player who happens to be your lead ball handler relationship. When those guys are in sync and they're vibing, that's the rest of the team are like, oh, we're good, man. These 2 are like kumbaya, and we're all going to follow behind. And so I think they have a 50? I think they're going to win 50. I think I could see 50, 51 games for Atlanta.
So that did not qualify because there wasn't enough of a spread. Because what you have at, was it 48.5? They
47.5.
Okay. So I needed more of a spread to put them on my list, but I just looked it up. And Jarod, my preseason prediction for Atlanta is 50 and 32.
See, great minds, great minds.
Lockstep. All right, what's your next one? It's going to be over the top.
Next one, and again, and this may not hit your number because I didn't do fours. I just said who's going to win more. I think, speaking of Indiana, I think they're going to be a little bit better than 43.5 wins. I think the Carlisle bump's going to matter. Look, I don't like to disparage coaches, but like Nate Bjorkgren clearly was not the guy, right? Like those players all said it. They had a terrible time. He didn't control that locker room. Rick, as much as he's maniacal and controlling and all the things, he'll have control of the locker room, right? That we do know. Then the players will respect him. You got Brogdon, Sabonis, Karis LeVert, let's not forget Turner. Like, how do you not win at least 45 games, assuming health, with that squad?
I'll tell you how. I think your argument's good. I had them, I think, at 42. 41. I have them at 41, but for one reason, is I think you're exactly right. In fact, I was surprised just now when I looked it up. I'm like, man, I'm at 41. It's because I have no idea about TJ Warren.
Yes.
Remember in the bubble, which seemed 2 years ago, but was less than a year ago, right? Or almost exactly a year ago. We were in the playoffs at this point. TJ Warren was like the best player in the bubble.
Yes.
And I just have no idea with his injury, what he's going to be like. And so that to me, I thought Indiana would have a lower number than this, than you said, 43.5. I think that if I'm looking at my list now, where am I probably short? That would be one of my first choices. Maybe my first choice if you told me TJ's fine. So 41 wins is good. The East only has 3 bad teams now.
Right.
The 12th best team to me is Charlotte, who you got to play well to beat. Like they're a solid team. So that's why I think the record's going to be a little bit depressed. It's just more of a middle class in the East than there has been before. If TJ Warren's healthy, I think you're exactly right. If he isn't, I don't think he will be.
And the last team, coach, that I think is going to win a little bit more, and it's purely a heart pick, is the Grizzlies. Because I'm betting on Jaren Jackson Jr. having a bounce back year and him and Ja being they were 8 seed last year, right? So 41. So Vegas has them at 41 and 41. I think they're going to win 44, 45 games this year.
We're close. I have them at 43 as of now. And you're right about Jarod. I actually think they're a very deep team.
They're very good.
That's why I have them have a winning record.
Brandon Clark. They got a lot of good guys on that team.
Yeah, Bane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love him. Jarod's got to see the season that Ayton just saw, where he just suddenly gets it. Do less, and by doing less, you end up mastering more. That would be the idea anyway.
Yep.
Then they could really take off, especially if Morant had a down year shooting. I think he was better his rookie year. So if he can get that 3-point shot back, then I think they could be. Yeah, they could. I mean, I am at 43. They get to 45, 46, 47. Yeah. All right, 3.
Those are my
now. I'll do my 3 teams that I thought are going to win more. So you're going to have to help me because I don't have the other lists. So I've got the Wizards at 42 wins.
Ooh.
And they've only got them at 34.5. Right?
Yeah.
I was surprised at that. I think Spencer is a good player, their point guard. Spencer Dinwiddie's a good player. Good.
Yeah, he is.
I think he could be as powerful as Russell Westbrook was last year, and they got pretty much everyone else back. Spencer's a very good player.
He's a better shooter for sure.
My guess is they're putting the number assuming Beal won't be there. And I think that's fair. But if they trade Beal for Simmons and another player, perhaps, that's why I have it in there. Is I think they're going to trade Beal and get healthier even than just one star. Get 2 more solid players. And so, and I've heard good things about their coach. We'll see. But I think their previous coach wasn't doing such a great job. And so I'm higher on them. I think the biggest one is Phoenix is what, 51.5?
Correct. 51.5.
I've got them at 60 wins.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
I know. I think you've got OKC, Houston, Minnesota, San Antonio, Sacramento, who are likely going to suck. So you can get real fat against those teams. And then, it'll be a slog against these other teams. But I think coming off the way they lost last year, they're going to be team motivated. And some of the guys are playing for extensions.
Yep.
And their next contract. Yeah, I think Phoenix is going to be. I think they're going to outdo the 51. And then
Okay.
the third team I've got above the number. I've got the Lakers at 57 wins.
I had a feeling you were going to go there because I think
Yeah,
because you think they're going to be a very good regular season team, like excellent.
yeah, 51.5, right?
Yep.
I, I mean, I think Anthony Davis is really good. I'm not sure Nels agrees with me. I find him to be a really, really good basketball player. I think LeBron does not like losing.
Yes, correct.
And is super motivated. They are very old,
Yeah.
but they have so many old guys, which I think will hurt them in the postseason, that you can mix and match in the regular season as long as you've got that core duo. Now, I get it. If one of those guys get hurt, I totally get that. But I happen to think that, and I think Horton Tucker will get better. I just think LeBron is so competitive and handles it better normally. You know, he's going to get his guys galvanized. Yeah, and so, all right, who are the three teams you think?
All right, my underachievers. I don't like what's going on in Utah. I don't know. Something just doesn't feel right. I don't 52 and a half. There's something about and it's not just it's not silly, but it's not just the COVID thing that happened with Donovan and Rudy. It's more than that. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a partnership that either of them are willing it's not about them being best friends, but either of them willing to maximize so that both of them are always at their best. I don't know what. It's just the vibe I get. So Utah Jazz, that's number one. I see them going under.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I've got, I have Utah winning more games what they have there. I think your argument, I want to expand on your argument. I don't think it's Gobert Donovan COVID issues. I think it's Gobert Donovan personality issues. And then I'll take it a step further. The word is matriculating out that the team didn't have enough urgency in the postseason. I don't agree with that, but that's what people are saying. And so they signed Hassan Whiteside and Rudy Gay. They lost Dennis Lindsey.
Yeah.
He ain't the GM anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a factor. I think that Joe Ingles might be thinking it might get traded. Bogdanovich may think it might get traded. They blew up a little bit because their bench Favors is gone. George Niang is gone. The number one seed and by far the best team in the regular season last year, because Donovan got hurt in the postseason, Conley got hurt in the postseason, and Quinn Snyder wouldn't just sit Rudy Gobert when the Clippers went small. Because I thought if they just go small against Clippers, they'll run them out. Instead, they let Rudy play and Terrence Mann 39 and then the series was over. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that on paper they should win a bunch. I think that team is built a little bit on a house of cards because of some structural issues. We'll see. But it starts with the top. When you change the GM, I think it makes a difference.
The Bulls, look, I get it. Lonzo, everybody, I don't know, 39 and a half. I can see that not going well because DeMar DeRozan, what are we actually doing? And are we sure Zach LaVine's long to stay in Chicago?
You're asking a good question. I have them at 40. So me and Vegas see it exactly that, which obviously is touch and go. I'm sure you don't think they're winning 32.
No.
You're just saying they're winning less than 39.
Yes.
I mean, the DeRozan fit isn't great. I think the Zach LaVine question is huge. He gets on an extension. He hasn't got it yet. I've never loved him.
Yeah. You like him more now.
I love him now. Mm-hmm. I was so impressed with how he played.
He did
in Team USA, and man, I'm rooting for him.
That USA basketball is often a galvanizing force for certain young guys, right? To that next season, it's like, whoa, what happened? USA basketball.
No, I think you're right.
Last one. Sorry, Henry. Blazers. It's the Dame thing. I just don't know. 44 and a half. I don't know what they're doing. If Dame goes halfway through and you get back what? I don't even know. That's assuming you get Simmons back. What if you don't? What if Dame's just like, this team is crap and he just plays out and it's,
I happen to like what they did. I didn't love it. I liked it. I think I had them, winning 46, and now I got them up to 48.
Wow, you're high on them. More high than I am.
But you're not high on them because you think Dame's can end up not being all in. I don't think you're wrong necessarily. I do think they'll end up doing a deal when he realizes it's just not enough. I think it's best for him to ask out when things are going fine, just not amazing. Fine's not good enough for Dame at this stage of his career. So if you can do a deal where they're already pretty good and they can stay pretty good, and be younger. I think everyone kind of wins that. But no, listen, they could trade Dame into just picks and young guys, and you're going to win $1,000 if you bet $1,000 because they're not going to be nearly as good. So the three teams I have that I think that are overrated, I think they've got Boston at 47.5.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've
got them at 40.
Yeah. I can see them struggling.
New coach. Brad Stevens is a very good coach. I love who they hired, Ime Udoka. He's still a rookie coach. And I love Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart.
Mm-hmm.
They added who they add. Fournier went to New York.
They got Horford back.
Al Horford, whatever. He's not I love him, but he's not the needle mover he once was. So that has me concerned. I am down
and
on
Schroeder.
Dallas.
Yeah.
I'm down on Dallas. I'm at 43 wins.
It's interesting. I was going to say, the only reason why I didn't put them there, I'm like, oh, do I bet against Luka? It's that point I'm like, I don't want to bet against.
No, you're smarter than me. Luka's one of the best players in the world. But you're betting on Porzingis is what you're betting on. Now, I will tell you, I listened yesterday to someone saying that's Dallas-based, that a media guy, that Porzingis looks great. All right.
I feel like we hear that at the start of every season for him. And then inevitably, whatever. So I'll believe it when I see it.
Jalen Brunson is supposedly healthy, and that'll help. He's a factor that they were missing this year. But anyway, I have Dallas. And I've got two more teams. I am not high on Minnesota. What do they have for Minnesota?
Minnesota
4.5?
Yeah, 30. Woo, that's a lovely number.
I love Karl-Anthony Towns, but Anthony Edwards in his second year. D'Angelo Russell, I guess. I just don't. I don't.
No. You when you say you guess, that means no.
Yeah, no. I know. And the trade rumors about it with maybe Simmons going there because of the relationship Gerson Rosas has with Daryl Morey.
Free cat.
Right. And then I think OKC is terrible.
Oh, they're gonna win 12 games.
Well, yeah, I have them at 18 wins. I think what do they have them at?
23. 23 and a half.
23 and a half. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they have one great player. I love Shai Gilgeous.
Love SGA.
I'm not convinced a lot of those young guys are going to make it.
How happy is he going to be down there, by the way, on this another tanking year? Like I know he's got the bag, so I'm sure he's happy about that, but I don't know, man. You guys want to win.
I know their picks are assets, but I'm not sure their young players besides him and Dort have any real value. So I don't have them winning 23 games. That's for sure.
All right, real quick before we go, championship bus. We'll just go back and forth. Who's on it? I'll start. Obviously, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn on the bus. I agree. I will go back and forth conference until we run out of room. I've got the Suns on the bus.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, I've got the Lakers.
Back to the East. Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta.
I think Atlanta's on the bus, and I think the Jazz are on the bus.
Okay.
They can't not be on the bus.
Miami.
Remember, the bus is just they got a shot.
Yes.
Okay. I think you're right on Miami. I put the Warriors because I think there's a deal that we have there.
Oh, if they get Ben Simmons, you mean? All right. Now we're getting into okay, you're on the bus, but you're probably going to get kicked off at the first stop.
No, not the first stop. You got one team that's not going to get kicked off.
All right. Philly.
Yeah. But maybe, you're right. Maybe if you don't do a Simmons deal. Yeah, I've got Philly on the bus. And I've got I'm going to say right now, because I don't know when Jamal Murray comes back, I got to put the Nuggets on the bus.
Did you put Phoenix on?
Oh, yeah, they're my first choice.
Okay. Phoenix is on. All right.
I think we might be done.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else in the East that I want to put on.
Clippers aren't on the bus.
Clippers aren't on the bus.
Portland's not on the bus.
Portland's not on the bus.
Luka's not on the bus.
Nope.
Yeah, Zion's not on the bus.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, right.
Celtics, no. Knicks, no.
No. Toronto, no. Indiana, no. Boston, no.
No. Yeah, that's it.
Boston may win more than 40, what I predicted, but they're not going to win a championship.
No. Yeah, that's it. Bus is full.
Bus is full. Yeah.
Sorry, Randy. No Knicks.
No, I got the Knicks winning 42 games. Be happy with that.
Yes. Remember, progression isn't always linear. Folks, just really quick. Tomorrow, of course, is the 20th anniversary of September 11th. I know that's a day for everyone, no matter, where you were, that, obviously it's a day that we all remember what was going on that day. So just keep that in mind and keep those families and people in your thoughts and prayers. And we will see everybody next week. For Coach Thorpe, Henry, and Judy. Have a good weekend, guys.